Simplicity is power, but you're doing it wrong. Let me ask you something. If I told you that all the power you need in life, whether it's success, clarity, happiness, or even deep philosophical enlightenment, comes from simplicity, would you believe me? Or would you instinctively resist, thinking that life is too complex, that power must be hidden in intricate strategies, in long hours of grinding, in mastering the details that most people overlook? See, we all admire simplicity when we see it. When Steve Jobs held up the first iPhone and said, "It just works," the world felt the impact of simplicity distilled into power. When Bruce Lee said, "It's not the daily increase but the daily decrease. Hack away at the unessential," he was revealing something that most of us overlook. And yet, when it comes to our own lives, we tend to complicate everything. We stack layers of unnecessary thoughts, obligations, and distractions on top of what we truly need. And here's the real problem: you're doing simplicity wrong. Simplicity is not minimalism. It's not about owning fewer things, cutting down your schedule, or reducing your responsibilities. That's just surface-level thinking. True simplicity is about clarity. It's about seeing reality without distortion. It's about knowing exactly what matters and having the courage to strip away everything else. But most people misunderstand this. They think simplicity is about subtraction, that if they remove enough things from their life, they will finally feel free. But simplicity done wrong can become another prison, a sterile, empty space devoid of meaning. That's why people declutter their homes, quit their jobs, move to a quiet place, and still feel lost. Because they forgot that simplicity is not just about removing noise. It's about amplifying signal.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Think about the greatest minds in history. Einstein reduced the complexity of the universe into EMC2. Da Vinci said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." The Buddha taught enlightenment not as an addition of wisdom, but as a removal of illusion. Every true master, in every field, seeks simplicity because simplicity is raw, unfiltered power. But they don't seek it by merely reducing complexity, they seek it by cutting through the unnecessary to reveal what is essential. And that's the part most people miss. They get rid of things without knowing what they're actually making space for. They simplify their lives but still lack direction. They clear their minds but don't ask the right questions. Simplicity without purpose is just emptiness. So let me ask you, what's the one thing in your life that truly matters? Strip away the noise, the distractions, the obligations that society, family, and your own overthinking have piled onto you. What remains? If you say, "I don't know," then you've already found your problem. Because simplicity is not about doing less. It's about doing only what is necessary, and that requires knowing what is necessary. Most people don't. They live by default, reacting to life rather than designing it. They chase goals they never questioned, follow routines they never examined, and wonder why they feel exhausted despite simplifying their lives. That's because they remove things blindly, without understanding what they should have kept. This is why most people fail at simplicity. They treat it like a diet, something they do temporarily to cut the excess, but never fundamentally change how they think. They declutter their space, but not their mind. They organize their schedule, but not their priorities. They say no to distractions, but never define their focus. And so simplicity becomes just another aesthetic, another trend, another thing to chase without truly understanding it. But real simplicity isn't something you do. It's something you embody. It's a way of thinking, of seeing, of acting with precision. It's about knowing exactly what moves the needle in your life and cutting everything else without hesitation. It's about recognizing that complexity is often just procrastination in disguise, that overthinking is just fear wearing a mask. And here's where it gets interesting, because the moment you understand this, you realize that simplicity is not easy. It's the hardest thing you will ever do. It forces you to confront deep questions about your life, your purpose, your habits, and your fears. It demands ruthless clarity. And clarity is painful because it removes your excuses. It forces you to see where you've been lying to yourself. It makes you realize that many of the things you thought were important were just distractions. That many of the problems you thought were complicated were actually simple, but you didn't want to face them. So here's the brutal truth: if your life feels overwhelming, if you feel stuck, if you're constantly busy but never truly progressing, the problem isn't that life is too complicated. The problem is that you haven't simplified it correctly. You've removed things without understanding what truly matters. You've tried to streamline your life without first defining your purpose. And that's why, no matter how much you declutter, organize, or optimize, you still feel lost. Because simplicity without clarity is just another form of chaos. So ask yourself, are you simplifying your life just to feel in control? Or are you simplifying it to make space for something greater? Because if you don't know the answer, then you're not simplifying, you're just rearranging the same confusion into a different shape. The illusion of complexity and why it's stealing your power. Think about the last time you felt stuck. Maybe it was a decision you couldn't make, a goal you couldn't reach, or a problem that seemed impossible to solve. What did your mind do? It likely started layering on complexity. You overanalyzed, overthought, and overcomplicated the situation until it felt even bigger than it actually was. And here's the dangerous part: you probably thought that complexity was necessary. You believed that the more angles you considered, the more details you gathered, the more prepared you would be. But what if I told you that complexity is often just an illusion? What if I told you that your brain isn't solving problems, it's creating them? See, the human mind has a tendency to mistake complexity for intelligence. We assume that if something is complicated, it must be important. If a solution is simple, it must be missing something. But this is a trap. In reality, complexity is often just a smokescreen for inaction. It's a way to avoid making decisions, to delay responsibility, to keep ourselves distracted while feeling like we're making progress. And the worst part, society rewards this illusion. People who make things sound complicated are often seen as experts. Industries thrive on making simple things seem difficult so they can sell you the solution. Education systems teach us to memorize complexity instead of mastering clarity. The world conditions you to believe that success, wisdom, and power come from accumulating more knowledge, more strategies, more effort, when in reality, true power comes from cutting away everything that doesn't matter. Look at the most powerful ideas in history, the greatest philosophies, the most impactful inventions, the most revolutionary breakthroughs. They are all simple at their core. The law of gravity, a falling apple, the theory of evolution, survival of the fittest, the foundations of computing, ones and zeros. The more fundamental a truth is, the simpler it becomes. But because humans are addicted to complexity, we often reject simple truths in favor of complicated distractions. We chase hacks instead of mastering the basics. We seek shortcuts instead of building true skill. We look for secret formulas instead of realizing that everything we need has been in front of us the whole time. We just refuse to see it because it looks too simple to be the answer. And this is where complexity steals your power. Every unnecessary layer of complexity adds friction to your life. It slows you down, drains your energy, and makes even the simplest actions feel heavy. Take decision-making, for example. The more factors you consider, the harder it becomes to make a choice. The more options you entertain, the more paralyzed you feel. Complexity doesn't create better decisions, it creates hesitation. And hesitation is the enemy of progress. The most successful people in the world don't have more time than you. They don't necessarily have more intelligence or resources. What they have is speed. They cut through complexity. They see the essence of a situation, make a decision, and move. They don't waste energy on unnecessary details because they understand that simplicity isn't about having less, it's about focusing on what actually moves the needle. But here's the paradox: simplicity is hard. It requires discipline. It requires confidence. It requires the ability to ignore distractions, to say no to things that seem important but actually aren't, to trust that the simplest path is often the right one. And most people can't do this. They cling to complexity because it makes them feel safe. If something is complicated, they have an excuse for why they haven't figured it out yet. If success requires 100 steps, they can justify their lack of progress. But if success is actually simple, if it comes down to a few core principles, a few consistent actions, a few clear decisions, then they have no excuse left. They have to face the truth that they've been avoiding. So ask yourself, where in your life are you making things harder than they need to be? What problems feel overwhelming simply because you're overcomplicating them? What goals seem unreachable simply because you're adding unnecessary layers of strategy instead of focusing on the fundamentals? And more importantly, what would happen if you stripped away all the noise and focused only on what truly matters? Because here's the truth: simplicity isn't just powerful. Simplicity is terrifying. It exposes you. It forces you to act. It removes all the places where you can hide. That's why most people avoid it. They don't actually want clarity, they want the illusion of progress without the responsibility of action. But if you have the courage to embrace simplicity, everything changes. Decisions become easier. Progress becomes faster. Life becomes lighter. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You stop feeling trapped by complexity. You stop letting the world convince you that success and happiness require more when, in reality, they require less but done with absolute focus and precision. The question is, do you have the courage to let go of complexity? Or will you keep holding on to it because it makes you feel safe? Why simplicity feels uncomfortable, and how to master it. If simplicity is so powerful, so effective, so undeniably clear in its impact, then why do most people resist it? Why does it feel unnatural, even unsettling, to strip things down to their essence? The answer is simple but uncomfortable. Simplicity forces us to confront what we've been avoiding. It removes the distractions, the justifications, the endless maze of complexity we use to protect ourselves from the truth. And when all of that is gone, we are left with nothing but reality. No fluff, no excuses, just the raw, unfiltered truth of what is and what isn't. And that's terrifying. Most people don't realize that complexity is often a defense mechanism. We complicate things not because they need to be complicated, but because we are afraid of the simplicity of the truth. Think about it: if success is simple, then failure is a choice. If happiness is simple, then suffering is often self-imposed. If clarity is simple, then confusion is something we create to avoid making hard decisions. And that realization is uncomfortable because it means we are responsible for far more than we like to admit. It means that the barriers holding us back are not external forces, but internal ones. And there is nothing more difficult than facing yourself with absolute honesty. This is why most people struggle with simplicity. It feels too raw. It removes all the layers of unnecessary thought, all the justifications we hold on to, all the stories we tell ourselves about why things are the way they are. It reduces life to its core principles, and that kind of clarity is unsettling because it demands action. It eliminates all the excuses that complexity provides. When something is simple, you can no longer hide behind, "I don't know what to do," or "I need more time to figure things out." You either act or you don't, and that level of responsibility is uncomfortable. But here's the paradox: while simplicity feels uncomfortable at first, it is also the only path to true mastery. Every great achiever, every brilliant thinker, every master of their craft has one thing in common: they have simplified their work, their process, and their thinking to the point where there is no excess. They don't get lost in unnecessary details. They don't waste time on things that don't matter. They don't allow complexity to slow them down. Instead, they focus with laser precision on the fundamentals, refining them over and over until they reach a level of effortless excellence. Look at elite athletes. They don't train by adding more and more complicated exercises to their routine. They master the basics over and over until those basics become second nature. Look at world-class musicians. They don't overwhelm themselves with endless new techniques. They refine the core skills until they can execute them flawlessly. Look at the greatest entrepreneurs, scientists, and thinkers throughout history. They don't drown in complexity. They cut through it. They see what others overlook. They find the essence of things and focus only on that. So the question is, how do you master simplicity? How do you train yourself to embrace it rather than resist it? The first step is to recognize that simplicity is not the absence of effort, it is the refinement of effort. It is not about doing less for the sake of doing less. It is about doing only what truly matters and doing it with absolute focus. This requires a ruthless ability to eliminate distractions, to say no to unnecessary complexity, to resist the temptation of overthinking and overcomplicating. It requires trusting that the fundamentals, when mastered, are more powerful than any advanced technique or strategy. The second step is practice. Simplicity is a skill. It is something you develop over time by consciously cutting away the excess, by questioning everything you do, by constantly asking yourself, is this necessary? Does this actually move me forward? Or is this just complexity disguised as progress? The more you practice simplifying your thoughts, your decisions, your actions, the more natural it becomes. And over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes second nature. The final step is courage. Simplicity requires confidence. It requires the willingness to stand by your decisions without feeling the need to justify them with unnecessary complexity. It requires the ability to trust in the power of clarity, even when the world around you insists that things must be more complicated, because the truth is, most people won't understand. They will assume that complexity equals intelligence, that more effort equals more results, that if something isn't difficult, it must not be effective. But you will know better. You will understand that true power lies not in doing more, but in doing what truly matters and doing it without hesitation. So ask yourself, where in your life are you making things harder than they need to be? What would happen if you stripped away all the excess and focused only on what is essential? And more importantly, do you have the courage to embrace that simplicity even when it feels uncomfortable? The power of simplicity, how it creates freedom, success, and unstoppable momentum. Simplicity is more than just a way of thinking, it is a force. A force that, when understood and mastered, creates freedom, accelerates success, and builds unstoppable momentum. But most people never experience this because they are trapped in the illusion that complexity is necessary. They believe that achieving greatness requires struggle, that making progress requires endless planning, that success is the result of mastering 1,000 different things at once. But the truth is, the most powerful individuals in the world, whether in business, sports, art, or philosophy, are not those who do the most. They are those who do the least, but with absolute focus, precision, and intensity. Think about it. When you simplify your actions, you move faster. When you simplify your decisions, you gain clarity. When you simplify your goals, you remove distractions and accelerate progress. Complexity slows you down. It keeps you in a state of hesitation, constantly questioning, constantly revising, constantly second-guessing. Simplicity, on the other hand, creates momentum. It removes the unnecessary, leaving only the essential. And when you focus all your energy on the essential, you become unstoppable. But the true power of simplicity goes beyond just efficiency. It creates freedom. Most people are overwhelmed, stressed, and exhausted, not because life is inherently difficult, but because they are carrying too much, too many obligations, too many distractions, too many unnecessary burdens they have convinced themselves are important. But when you embrace simplicity, you realize that most of what you thought was necessary was never necessary at all. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to chase every opportunity. You only need to identify what truly matters and give it everything you've got. And this is where simplicity becomes a superpower. Because when you strip away everything that doesn't serve you, when you remove all the excess noise, all the wasted effort, all the distractions disguised as obligations, you gain an unfair advantage. You gain time, energy, and focus that others don't have. You move faster while they hesitate. You execute while they overthink. You succeed while they are still trying to figure out where to begin. This is why simplicity is not just powerful, it is essential. It is the foundation of mastery, the key to clarity, the secret to success. It is the reason why the most brilliant minds in history, the most successful entrepreneurs, the most legendary performers all emphasize one thing: focus on what truly matters. Cut the rest. Keep it simple. So ask yourself, right now, what is the one thing in your life that, if you focused on it completely, would change everything? What would happen if you stopped chasing complexity, stopped getting lost in distractions, stopped hesitating and started executing with pure, unapologetic simplicity? What if the success, the freedom, the momentum you've been searching for has been waiting for you all along, hidden beneath the unnecessary, buried under layers of overcomplication, just waiting for you to clear it away? Because the truth is, simplicity isn't just power, it is the path. The only question is, are you ready to walk it?